Imagine this. It's a rainy evening in the heart of the city, and I'm sitting across from my CEO in his lavish office, the kind with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline. The clock ticks past midnight, and he's sliding a document toward me with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. "Just one signature, Stella," he says, his voice smooth like silk, and everything changes. Little did I know, that signature would be the key to unraveling his entire empire. But let's rewind a bit. How did I, a mid-level accountant in a booming tech firm, end up in this position? It all started innocently enough, or so I thought. My name is Stella Carter, and I've always been the type to play by the rules. Growing up in a small town, I learned early on that hard work and honesty were the only ways to get ahead. That's what brought me to Apex Innovations, a company that promised to revolutionize the software world. I joined 5 years ago, fresh out of college, with stars in my eyes. Apex wasn't just a job, it was my life. I poured my heart into it, crunching numbers day and night, making sure every penny was accounted for. Our CEO, Mr. Harlan Reed, was the face of success. Charismatic, visionary, the kind of leader who could inspire a room full of skeptics with a single speech. At first, everything was perfect. Harlan treated me like a protege. He'd call me into his office for late-night strategy sessions, praising my attention to detail. "Stella, you're the backbone of this place," he'd say, clapping me on the shoulder. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? The company was thriving, stock prices soaring, and I was climbing the ladder faster than I ever dreamed. But cracks started to show. Subtle at first. Whispers in the break room about unusual expenses, departments merging without clear reasons. I brushed it off as growing pains. After all, in the fast-paced world of tech, change was constant. Then came the day that shifted everything. It was a Monday morning, and I was reviewing the quarterly reports when I noticed discrepancies. Funds funneled into obscure accounts labeled as consulting fees. They didn't add up. I dug deeper, cross-referencing invoices, and found patterns that screamed red flags. Offshore transfers, inflated vendor payments. My heart raced as I pieced it together. This wasn't sloppy bookkeeping, it was deliberate. But who was behind it? I couldn't imagine it was Harlan. He was the hero of our story, right? That evening, as the office emptied, I stayed late, my desk lamp the only light in the sea of cubicles. I pulled up more files, my fingers flying over the keyboard, and there it was, a trail leading straight to the top. Harlan had been siphoning money, preparing for something big. But what? I felt a chill run down my spine. Should I confront him? Report it anonymously? I decided to wait, gather more evidence. Little did I know, he was already watching me. The next day, Harlan called me into his office. "Stella, I've got an opportunity for you," he said, leaning back in his leather chair. "We're on the verge of a major deal, a merger that will make Apex untouchable." His eyes gleamed with excitement, but there was an edge to his voice. He handed me a folder. "Review this. It's confidential, but I trust you." As I flipped through the pages, my stomach twisted. The merger was with Vortex Tech, our biggest rival. On paper, it looked legitimate, but I knew better. Vortex had a shady reputation. Rumors of antitrust violations, bribes to regulators. This wasn't just a business move. It was illegal, designed to create a monopoly and crush competitors. I played it cool, nodding along. "This is huge, Mr. Reed. I'll look it over." But inside, I was reeling. Why involve me? Was he testing my loyalty? Or worse, setting me up as a fall guy? As I left his office, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just stepped into a trap. That night, lying in bed, questions swirled in my mind. What if I said no? Would I lose my job? My reputation? And if I went along, what would that make me? The betrayal was sinking in, slow and painful. Harlan, the man I'd idolized, was willing to destroy everything we'd built for his own gain. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure mounted. Harlan kept checking in, his friendly reminders feeling more like threats. "Stella, we're counting on you," he'd say with that same forced smile. I started noticing changes, colleagues avoiding my gaze, sudden promotions for those in his inner circle. It was clear the merger was happening, with or without me. But I wasn't ready to back down. I began documenting everything, saving emails, copying files onto a hidden drive. If he thought he could betray me, betray all of us, I'd make sure he paid. One afternoon, during a team meeting, Harlan announced the merger publicly, painting it as a triumph. The room erupted in applause, but I sat there, silent, my mind racing. How many jobs would be lost? How many lives upended? The conflict was no longer just numbers on a page. It was real, affecting people I cared about. My best friend at work, Sarah, leaned over. "This is amazing, right?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, amazing." But inside, anger bubbled. Harlan had built his empire on our backs, and now he was selling us out. As the meeting ended, he pulled me aside. "Stella, I need your signature on the final approval. It's just a formality." His tone was casual, but his eyes were sharp. I nodded, buying time. That signature, he had no idea it would be his undoing. But how? I needed a plan. Something foolproof. The setup was complete, the conflict brewing. What came next would test everything I believed in. Would I fold or fight back? Stick around, because the betrayal was just the beginning. Transitioning from that tense moment, let's dive deeper into how I unraveled the full extent of Harlan's scheme. It wasn't just about the merger. It was a web of lies that went back years. I remember sitting in my apartment that night, the city lights flickering outside my window as I pored over the documents. My cat, Whiskers, curled up beside me, oblivious to the storm brewing in my life. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to stop until I had them. The merger with Vortex wasn't Harlan's first shady deal. Digging through old records, I found evidence of smaller acquisitions, each one bending the rules a little more. One in particular stood out, a buyout of a startup called Innovatech 2 years ago. On the surface, it was clean, but buried in the fine print were kickbacks to Harlan's personal accounts. He disguised them as bonuses, but the math didn't lie. Millions diverted, employees laid off, all while he pocketed the profits. My hands shook as I connected the dots. This man, who preached integrity in every company memo, was a fraud. But why drag me into it? I realized it was because of my role. As the lead accountant, my signature carried weight. It could validate the merger in audits. If things went south, I'd be the one holding the bag. The betrayal hit hard, like a punch to the gut. I'd trusted him, admired him, even. Holidays at the office, team building retreats, he'd made us feel like family. Now, it all felt like a charade. I confided in Sarah over coffee the next day. We met at our usual spot, a cozy cafe down the street from the office. "Something's off with this merger," I whispered, glancing around. Sarah's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" I hesitated, then spilled it all, the discrepancies, the offshore accounts. She listened, her face paling. Stella, that's serious. You could get in trouble? But she didn't dismiss me. Instead, she offered to help. Let's look together. Two heads are better. That evening, we huddled in my office after hours. Sarah, with her background in legal, spotted clauses in the merger contract that screamed antitrust violations. This would eliminate competition, she said, pointing to a section on market share. It's illegal under federal law. My heart pounded. We were onto something big. But as we worked, a noise echoed down the hall. Footsteps. We froze, lights off, praying it was the janitor. The door creaked open, and there stood Harlan's assistant, Mark, his face suspicious. "Working late, ladies?" he asked, his tone too casual. We mumbled excuses, but I knew we'd been seen. Paranoia set in. Was my computer being monitored? My phone tapped? I started using a burner phone for research, accessing public records on the merger. Vortex's CEO, Victor Kane, had a history of scandals, fines for insider trading, lawsuits from former partners. Harlan and Victor were old college buddies. This wasn't business, it was personal greed. The conflict escalated when I received an anonymous email. "Stop digging or you'll regret it." Attached was a photo of me leaving the office. Fear gripped me, but it fueled my resolve. Who sent it? Harlan? Mark? I couldn't trust anyone. Sarah urged me to go to the authorities, but I needed more proof. One wrong move, and we're both out, I said. Days blurred into a haze of secret meetings and late nights. I uncovered emails between Harlan and Victor discussing how to bribe regulators. We'll make it worth their while, one read. Shock turned to anger. How dare he? Employees like me had families, dreams tied to Apex. This merger would gut the company, shipping jobs overseas for cheaper labor. I thought of Tom in engineering with his newborn, Lisa in marketing saving for her wedding. Their lives would be shattered. In a moment of doubt, I almost confronted Harlan. I stormed to his office, but stopped at the door, hearing him on the phone. Yes, the signature's coming. Stella's on board. His laugh echoed. Betrayal stung deeper. He wasn't just using me, he was counting on my silence. But I wasn't silent. I started building my case, piece by piece. Photocopies, screenshots, a timeline of deceit. Sarah helped, but we kept it quiet. The plan was forming, expose him from within. But how? That one signature he wanted so badly. Maybe it could be turned against him. As tensions rose, I wondered, could I pull this off without destroying myself? The deception was unraveling, but the real battle was just ahead. As the weight of Harlan's secrets pressed down, I reached my breaking point. A moment where betrayal turned into a burning need for justice. It was a Friday evening, the office buzzing with pre-weekend energy, but I felt isolated, like a storm cloud in a clear sky. Harlan had ramped up the pressure, sending daily emails. Stella, time's ticking on that signature. Each one felt like a noose tightening. That night, I met Sarah at a park bench, away from prying eyes. The autumn leaves crunched underfoot as we sat, whispering. I found more, she said, handing me a USB drive. Harlan's been meeting Victor in secret. Photos from a hotel lobby. I plugged it into my laptop, and there they were, grainy images of handshakes, briefcases exchanged. My stomach churned. This wasn't just illegal. It was orchestrated betrayal against everyone at Apex. But the real gut punch came when I discovered the human cost. In the merger docs, there was a section on restructuring, code for mass layoffs. Over half the staff gone, including Sarah's department. They're kidding us loose, I murmured, tears welling. Sarah hugged me. We have to stop this. Her voice cracked, revealing her own fear. We weren't just employees, we were friends, confidants. Harlan's actions were ripping that apart. Back home, I paced my living room, mind racing. Memories flooded in of Harlan's speeches about loyalty, how Apex was one big family. Lies, all of it. Anger surged, hot and unrelenting. How could he sleep at night? I slammed my fist on the table, startling Whiskers. That's when it hit me. The breaking point. I couldn't let him win. Revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about exposure, making him face the consequences. I began formulating a plan. First, gather irrefutable evidence. I reached out to a former colleague, Jake, who left under mysterious circumstances. Over an encrypted call, he spilled. Harlan forced me out when I questioned finances. He threatened my career. Jake sent files, more proof of embezzlement. Piece by piece, my dossier grew, but Harlan sensed something. Monday morning, he called a one-on-one. "Stella, you've been distant," he said, feigning concern. "Everything okay?" I met his gaze, steady. "Just busy with a merger." He leaned in. "Good. Your signature seals it. Promotion's waiting." The offer dangled like bait, but I saw through it. Betrayal layered on betrayal. He thought he could buy me. After, I confided in Sarah again. He's desperate. We brainstormed. What if my signature wasn't approval, but a trigger for exposure? I recalled a clause in company policy. Whistleblower protections. If I signed but attached a report, it could go straight to the board and regulators. Risky, but brilliant. Tension built as deadlines loomed. Harlan announced a company-wide party to celebrate the future. Irony at its finest. At the event, champagne flowed, but I nursed my drink watching him schmooze. He toasted to new beginnings. Cheers erupted, but I felt sick. Later, he cornered me. "Signature by tomorrow, Stella." His grip on my arm was firm, eyes cold. That night alone, doubt crept in. What if I failed? Lost everything? But thinking of betrayed colleagues steeled me. The plan solidified. Sign, but embed evidence in the document, hidden notes that would alert authorities upon filing. It was clever, using his own system against him. As I prepared, questions haunted. Would it work? Or would he crush me first? The breaking point had passed. Now it was time for action. But the path ahead was fraught with danger. What twists awaited in this game of cat and mouse? With the betrayal fully exposed in my mind, I shifted gears into plotting my revenge, a careful, calculated plan to turn Harlan's greed back on him. It started in the quiet hours of dawn. My apartment lit only by the glow of my computer screen. Coffee in hand, I mapped it out step by step. No rash moves. This had to be airtight. First, I needed allies. Sarah was in, but we required more. I contacted Jake discreetly, and he agreed to testify if needed. Then I reached out to a journalist friend, Mia, from college. "Stella, this is explosive," she said over a secure line. "If you have proof, I can publish." But timing was key. I couldn't tip Harlan off. The core of the plan revolved around that signature. Harlan wanted it on the merger approval form, which would be filed with the SEC. What he didn't know was I'd modify it subtly. Using my access, I'd attach an addendum, a detailed report of illegal activities flagged for immediate review. Once signed and submitted, it would trigger an investigation. "One signature," he'd said. Oh, how right he was. To ensure success, I practiced. I created mock documents, testing how to embed the evidence without detection. Sarah reviewed. This could work. We also backed up everything on encrypted clouds in case of retaliation. But plotting wasn't without risks. Harlan's surveillance intensified. IT logs showed someone accessing my files. Was it Mark? I changed passwords, worked offline. Paranoia peaked when I found my desk rummaged. A warning I pushed on, fueled by justice. To make the plan more robust, I delved into legal research. Using public libraries to avoid traces, I studied whistleblower laws. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act protected me, offering rewards for exposing fraud. Encouraging. I consulted an anonymous lawyer hotline, confirming my approach. Sarah and I role-played scenarios. What if he questions the addendum? She'd ask. I'll say it's standard compliance. We anticipated every angle. Emotional waves hit too. Sadness for lost trust, shock at his depths, but relief in action. I imagined the climax. Harlan exposed, empire crumbling. It kept me going. Memories of good times with Harlan haunted me, mentoring sessions, laughs, but they fueled resolve. He betrayed that bond. We set a timeline. Sign in his office, submit immediately. Mia on standby for the story. Jake ready with corroboration. Finally, the night before, I reviewed everything. Evidence solid, allies ready. Heart racing, I whispered, this ends tomorrow. As the day approached, suspense built. Would he suspect? The plan was set, but betrayal's sting lingered. Revenge was near, but at what cost? The next phase would test my nerve like never before. As the day of reckoning dawned, tension wrapped around me like a vice. Every moment building toward the inevitable confrontation. I woke early, the sun barely peeking over the horizon. My mind a whirlwind of what-ifs. Breakfast was impossible. Nerves knotted my stomach. I dressed carefully, professional, unassuming, as if it were any other day. But it wasn't. Today, I'd sign that document and set the wheels in motion. Arriving at the office, the lobby buzzed with normalcy. Colleagues chatted, coffee in hand, oblivious to the storm. I nodded hellos, forcing smiles. Up in my cubicle, I double-checked the addendum on a hidden file. It detailed everything. Fund trails, emails, photos, irrefutable. Harlan's email pinged. My office, 10 a.m. My pulse quickened. Sarah texted, "You got this." Her support was a lifeline. The hours dragged. I pretended to work, but my thoughts raced. What if he saw through me, rejected the signature, or worse, had me escorted out? Doubt nipped, but I pushed back. This was for everyone he'd betrayed. At 9:55, I gathered my things, heart thumping. The elevator ride felt eternal. His door loomed. Knocking, I entered. "Stella, right on time," he beamed, gesturing to the chair. The document waited on his desk, pen beside it. We exchanged pleasantries, but his eyes scanned me. "Suspicious?" "Let's get this done," he said, sliding it over. I read slowly, stalling. The addendum was attached digitally, invisible until filing. Pen in hand, I hesitated. Flashbacks hit, joining Apex, Harlan's praise, discoveries, betrayal's weight. Then I signed. "Done," I said, voice steady. He smiled wide. "Excellent. This merger's our future." Handshake sealed it, leaving relief mixed with fear. In my office, I submitted, straight to SEC, Board C, Seed. The buildup peaked. Would alarm sound? Nothing yet. Lunch with Sarah, we whispered updates. "It's sent." Her eyes lit. But waiting was agony. Afternoon meetings blurred, then a call from the board. "Stella, we need to talk." Heart soared. It was beginning. Harlan, oblivious, planning his victory. But the tide turned. Climax approached. Suspense thick. What would happen when truth hit? The climax unfolded like a thunderstorm, sudden and unrelenting, as the consequences of my signature rippled through the company. It started with A buzz. Phones ringing off the hook, emails flooding in. I sat at my desk, feigning work, but inside adrenaline surged. First, the board's emergency meeting announcement. All executives now. Whispers spread. Something's wrong. Harlan strode past, confident. Little did he know. In the conference room, tension crackled. The chairman, Mr. Ellis, stood grim. We've received a report attached to the merger approval. Allegations of illegal activities. Gasps. Harlan's face paled. What report? Ellis read excerpts. Fund misappropriations, bribes. Evidence projected, emails, transfers. Harlan stammered, "This is a mistake." But eyes turned accusatory. I spoke up, voice firm. "It's no mistake. I attached it because it's true." Shock rippled. Harlan glared. "You? After everything I've done for you?" Betrayal mirrored back. Chaos ensued. Security called as Harlan ranted. "She's lying." But proof was damning. Board suspended him pending investigation. The room erupted in questions. "How deep does this go?" one board member asked. Ellis outlined SEC involved, audits launching. Harlan tried defending Victor's the one, but trailed off, trapped. I detailed my discoveries, voice steady despite shaking knees. Colleagues listened, some nodding, others stunned. Mark, his assistant, shifted uncomfortably. Complicit? Outside, Mia's article dropped. Apex CEO exposed in merger scandal. Headlines exploded, stock plummeted, but truth emerged. Sarah hugged me. "You did it." Relief washed over, mixed with shock. Harlan's empire crumbled in hours. Climax peaked as authorities arrived, cuffing him quietly. No violence, just justice. As he was led away, our eyes met. Speechless, defeated. My one signature had exposed it all. But aftermath loomed. What now for Apex? For me? In the wake of the climax, the aftermath unfolded slowly, revealing the full impact of Harlan's downfall and my role in it. The office the next day was a ghost town. Whispers, empty desks. Harlan's office sealed, investigators combing files. I met with the board. "Stella, your courage saved us," Ellis said. Promotion offered, but I hesitated. Trust broken. Could I stay? News spread. Merger halted. Vortex under scrutiny. Victor Kane arrested for related charges. Justice served. Personally, relief came in waves. Sarah and I celebrated quietly. "We did good," she said. Jake called, "Thanks for clearing my name." But challenges arose. Lawsuits loomed. Media hounded. I gave interviews carefully, focusing on integrity. Apex restructured. New leadership. Transparent policies. Employees retained. Morale rebuilding. Harlan faced trial, pleading guilty to lesser charges, empire gone. Seeing him humbled brought closure, not joy. Weeks passed, audits confirming my findings. Bonuses returned to staff, morale boosted. I accepted a role in compliance, ensuring no repeats. Harlan's family suffered. Wife divorced, kids distant. Sad, but consequences of choices. I started speaking at events, sharing my story. Inspiration for others. Emotionally, I reflected. Betrayal hurt, but standing up empowered. Friends rallied, life moved on. The aftermath wasn't tidy, but hopeful. What lessons emerged from this chaos? As the dust settled, rebuilding trust became the focus, both in the company and my life. Apex appointed a new CEO, Ms. Rivera, ethical and visionary. Her first act, town hall meetings, listening to us. I led transparency initiatives, open books, whistleblower hotlines. Colleagues approached. Thanks, Stella. Bonds strengthened. Personally, therapy helped process betrayal. Anger faded to understanding. Greed corrupts, but integrity endures. Sarah and I grew closer, starting a support group for workplace issues. Harlan's trial concluded. Fined, barred from business. He faded from headlines. Apex thrived, stocks recovered. My signature not just exposed, but rebuilt. Months in, projects flourished under Rivera. Innovation returned, sans corruption. I mentored juniors, sharing warnings. Question everything. Socially, dates, hobbies, resumed. Life balanced, but deeper, I learned. Trust earned, not given. This chapter closed, new beginnings ahead. Looking back, the journey from betrayal to justice taught profound lessons, a moral undertone to this tale. Trust is fragile. Once broken, hard to mend. Harlan's greed showed how power corrupts, blinding to harm. But courage in darkness brings light. My stand not just revenge, but protection for many. Diving deeper, consider emotional toll. Sadness for lost mentor. Shock at deception. But growth. Resilience built. Professionally, companies must foster ethics. Employees, stay vigilant. Personally, surround with true friends like Sarah. The story's impact. Inspired change beyond Apex. Policies shifted industry-wide. Lesson. Speak up. Silence enables wrong. Reflection. Life's not fair, but actions tip scales. In the end, justice prevails, though path tough. Relief and truth winning. Moral. Betrayal stings, revenge satisfies, but justice endures. Choose wisely. With lessons internalized, a new horizon dawned, closing this chapter on a note of hope. Apex flourished, me at helm of ethics committee. Personal life bloomed, travel, new relationships. Harlan, rumors of quiet life, reflection perhaps. The experience shaped me, stronger, wiser. Years later, I look back without regret. Signature, best decision. Company events now celebrate integrity. Friends toast to courage. To you, listener. If betrayed, plan carefully. Seek justice. It changes everything. Horizon bright, past behind. Thanks for joining this tale. Until next time.